Welcome to Inspiring Minds, where captivating narratives fuel our aspirations for a better world. Join Anabel as she introduces extraordinary individuals whose stories motivate us to act for a world worth living in.
Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of We Empower. I'm thrilled to have you all with us today, so sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired. Let's make today count. In today's episode, we will have a great guest here to introduce. I'm very proud to have her here. It is Safora Sadidi, from childhood market bar lost to a global voice for freedom. Safora Sadidi turns pain into power and advocates fearlessly for women and human rights. Welcome, Safora Sadidi, here in the show. You grew up with a shadow most of us can hardly imagine. Your father executed during the 1988 massacre in Iran, leaving a wound that became your calling, I would say. Safora Sadidi is not only the daughter of a political prisoner, she's the daughter of a silenced generation. Today, she carries their voices into parliaments, conferences, and public stage, a human rights voice advocate, women rights defender, and a relentless voice for justice. You embody courage that does not waver. Your story is not just about survival. It's about turning grief into an activism, silence into advocacy, and fear into a movement for change. Safora shows us even the deepest wounds can give rise to a strength that changes the world. Welcome here in the show.
Thank you very much, Anabel, for giving this opportunity to be on your show. And I'm very honored to answer any questions you might have, or your audience, of course.
Safora, I would like to use the song we all heard before. It's Here Comes the Sun, and listening to the song, and it was not sorted out by you. It was sorted out by Dr. Adolfo Panfili, but I think it fits very well also to our situation, because it says there's no pain which stays forever. There's no winter that stays forever. There's no crisis which stays forever. Here comes the song. And for me, it's really a kind of, it could be a symbol song for that what you do, because it is, I mean, you're not fighting with a hammer and with an axe, with a pistol, or with a gun. You're fighting with hope, with love. You're fighting with resilience, and you're fighting with staying hopeful and believing that love and democracy will win. And I mean, the simple and universal the song is, and this emotional lift it gives us, I think, yeah, really, it could be your song.
Indeed, because we also say that the sun will always come out behind all the clouds, and I think that the meaning is that there's always hope and there is always victory if you fight and if you resist and if you don't give up.
Safora, let us step a little bit into your childhood. How old were you when your father was executed?
Actually, I was 6 years old when my father was executed in the 1988 massacre. Actually, that I don't know, it gave me a sense of human responsibility since I was a child. But I knew that my father gave his life for the cause of freedom, of course. And I think that if he even thought even a little bit of himself or just about me, as I was his only daughter, his only child, I think that he wouldn't have made, that sacrifice. And he was actually always thinking about millions of children in Iran and the 80 million Iranians who are captive in this big prison called Iran. And I actually, that shaped somehow my life without me even realizing it. But it made me think beyond myself, of course, as a child. And it's actually a long story, but I was 6 when my father was executed. But I heard that when I was 8 years old, actually. So in these 2 years, I always thought that my father is building houses in Iran and gets Iran prepared so we can come to Iran. I found out about that when I was in Denmark, and yeah, that was how I realized that I don't have my father. I will not come home anymore.
Oh, you said it in a very tough words, and to understand the situation a bit, you immigrated with your family to Denmark, right?
Yeah, actually, I was sent to Denmark without my parents because my father, he was executed, and my mother, she joined the resistance movement. So I was actually sent to live with our family friends in Denmark. Um, I was 8 at that time, but of course, it was a difficult situation for me as a child. You know, I felt very alone,
Mm.
and that was for the first time that I realized that, the injustice that is in this world. And that I couldn't live in my own country, to be among my own people, to speak my own language. All of that was, for a child that, I was only 8. Of course, it was a little bit hard for me,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And can you remember the situation when you heard that your father won't come back and that you won't see your father again?
Yes, I was actually. First of all, Annabelle, if you allow me, I must tell you that I come from a generation who was born during one of the darkest time in Iran's history under Khomeini, one of the brutal dictatorship in the history of our country. And
Mm.
we did not have we have there were only repression, execution, and destruction. So of course we didn't have a normal childhood like other kids.
Mm.
But I think that also taught us from a young age how to resist. And we grew up with the value of standing up against injustice, and we learned never to accept oppression anywhere in the world, of course. But yeah, when I was a child, knowing that the regime has executed my father, and that my mother, she had to give her life to fight for freedom and for the future of me and the children of Iran, and then being sent to Denmark, and feeling very alone. I really felt that pain deeply as a child.
Yeah.
But strangely, I always felt that my father was somehow with me and protecting me. Whenever
This is
I faced
nice.
challenges, and whenever,
Yeah.
I had these difficulties, I really felt that he was somehow guiding me towards a lost paradise in this world. Because before my father was executed, in our last conversation, he told me that your heart is your country, and because your country and your people are in prison, so is your heart. But that one day you will find your paradise on this earth, and you will go into it. So I was somehow looking for that paradise in my life, and I
Have
found it actually. So
you
you
found it?
might.
Where did you found your paradise?
That's a very good question. Actually, well, I had my own dreams as a child, like other children, and even as a teenager. But my paradise was actually in the age of 16, which I can, of course, tell you how it was. But the paradise I found in this world was the path of resistance,
Mm.
to fight for freedom and for the Iranian people, and, of course, to join the Iranian resistance to reach the goal of freedom. So that was my paradise. And I think that my father actually somehow guided me to that. And then he could rest after that. I joined the resistance.
Your words sound really tough on the one hand, but also very sensitive on the other hand, Safora. And if I imagine a 6 years old girl sent alone to a foreign country, knowing that her parents uh, in a situation where they work on something really big, but on the other hand, she's alone. She has no family there. It's another language. It's another culture. She doesn't know what happens with her parents if she will see them again, and she knows it's for a higher goal. But of course, a small girl needs more than ever the parents to hug them, to put their arms around, to just give a kiss, just take her on the legs and read something, or just take the hands and run over the grass, or these small little things. Do you have something at home or with you that reminds you of your father?
I'm sorry, can I have the question again?
Do you have something with you have always with you or at home what reminds you of your father?
I do have actually, because even though I must say that I was very, I was a child when I lost my father, but I do have some very deep memories of him, although it was a very short time. But as I said, he was, as far as it was about me, I know that he loved me very much because I was his only daughter. He named me Safora actually, and um, he was. I heard it from my family and also from his friends that he always helped many people without expecting anything from them. He stood up against injustice wherever he saw it, and he encouraged others to do the same. He always wanted the good things for other people. And most of all, he had a very strong faith in the ideals of the Mujahideen, People's Mujahideen organization, because he was a member of the MEK PMY, and in their leadership. He believed that with such strong leaders, Iran will be free and we will win. Maybe, Anabel, maybe I should explain for your listeners about the People's Mujahideen Organization, the
Yes.
PMI or MEK.
Yes, please.
They were actually, Mujahideen were Muslim students who stood up against the Shah's dictatorship. But after the revolution, they opposed Khomeini's fundamentalist rule because they had a modern view of Islam. And that's why Khomeini began to suppress them and later even ordered many of them to be executed. So of course, I was 6 when my father was executed. But as a child, actually, my mother always tried to somehow do something. So I was 6 and she didn't want me to realize that I don't have my father anymore because I loved him very much. I was more like my father's. But 2 years after, when I was 8, and as I told you, when I was sent to Denmark, I was living in Denmark, I found out the truth. And that was actually when I felt the pain of injustice. But again, at the age of 16, I decided that I have to do something. And I must also say that I'm just one example of hundreds of thousands of other Iranians in Iran who have lost their loved ones in the struggle. And I'm very proud to have a father who showed me the path of the truth and the path for freedom with his own sacrifice, of course.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
First, you said your father named you Safora. What is the meaning of the name?
Safora is the Arabic name, as far as I know. But I think he named me because he used to read a lot of books, and he gave his sisters. He encouraged all his family, especially his sisters, to read the books. And it was a book about a young girl whose name was Safora, and she lived in Algeria. And she actually, in the revolution in Algeria, she guided her family to resist and not give up. And when I was born, my father's sister, who actually read that book that my father gave her, said that if it's a girl, please name her Safora, and that's the reason that I was named Safora.
Oh, this is really nice. I have a poster in front of me I will show it after the break because it fits very well to that. And a second question came up to me. You said 2 times you were 16 when you decided um, for for changing and stay resilient and take your call. We have now 1 minute left before we go into the break. Can you explain quickly, was there a special situation when you were 16 which was like a pressing a button like, yes, now I start?
Very good. I will make it very short. I was 16 when I want to go to watch the World Cup match between Iran and the United States in Paris, in Lyon. I wasn't expecting anything more than football, but what I saw in that stadium changed my life because I saw tens of thousands of supporters of the Iranian resistance. They have just filled the stadium and they were all chanting together against the dictatorship and for freedom. And I saw a kind of, national unity that I've never seen before. And I felt the power of our, collective voice. And strangely enough, that energy helped the Iranian team to win that match, actually. And in that moment, I think football didn't matter anymore for anyone because on one side there was the Iranian team, and except from the regime's officials, of course, and the crowd of Iranians who were just shouting against the regime and in favor of freedom. And on the other side, you could see the broken face of religious tyranny and dictatorship, even here in Paris. And I remember even the American fans whose team had lost, they were very happy for the Iranian people. And they were like, chanting with us. And that scene actually, that moved me very deeply. And it was for the first time that I realized I couldn't just stay silent in the face of, the injustice anymore. And that was the moment that I knew that I have to speak up and be part of the change. I told you very briefly about how I decided this path.
Thank you so much with sharing this with us. So we continue talking with Safora, one of the voices of a democratic Iran. And Safora, I promised you that I bring you something to show you what came to my mind when you talked about your childhood. I have a poster which I was given as a present on one of the last book fairs, and it says "The Girl Who Changed the World."
Wow,
And I thought
beautiful.
about yes, I thought about you when I talk with you about this time of your life, and I would like to go back to you because a lot of people listening to you would say, where the hell does she get this strength from? And I could imagine that also you, as a very strong and sensitive person, you have sometimes situations where you feel a kind of, yeah, don't want to say depressive, but a bit melancholic, um, because it would be great if it doesn't need to take so long. It would be great if it goes easier. It would be great if there are more countries to say, yes, of course, we stay behind you without any doubt, without any asking and waiting or whatever, because it's clear human rights stands at first. And what are you doing in these situations? What are your maybe also daily hacks to keep yourself fresh, happy, and hopeful?
Well, that's actually a very good question. Um, First of all, I think that what is very important, as I said, is that I never see myself as one person because we are actually working as a group or a team. We are united with our, people who are working together in our resistance. And of course, we have our ups and downs, like everyone has. But I think that, because we have chosen to sacrifice everything for a bigger cause, that's something that I think that, gives us this courage and this motivation. For example, I can tell you that, of course, growing up with the culture of resistance comes with many blessings. First of all, you never feel alone. You're always surrounded by others who fight for a shared ideal. And our strength actually comes from our collective resistance and our struggle for freedom. We have our daily meetings, and we remind each other of our goals, our ideals, our values, and we even help each other to overcome challenges. And if someone faces difficulties, we are always, we are responsible for addressing them. We all guarantee each other's progress. And in other collective actions, there is, incredible power and strength. And I think we owe all this to Mrs. Maim Rajavi's guidance and her motto, which is "We can and we must." So this is actually how we do all this work together.
I like this because, there are so many people in the world which have great plans about changing something. But at the end of their life, they still have the plans, the great plans of changing something. And it will never be a reality because they are doubting, they are hesitating, they have maybe also the idea that it's not that easy to get out of the comfort zone. They think what others will think about us. This strength, you just say, I can and I do. This is as easy as it's powerful. And I like this very much. And on the other hand, I think, are there any practices also? I mean, you stay strong together because you're a group of people. You're all fighting for democracy. And but you, as a person, do you have also daily practices?
If I have daily what? I didn't.
Daily practices, just as, for example, some do yoga or meditation, some pray, or just sitting, reading a book to get down and fresh your mind.
Well, I think that is more like in our history, because the dictators always try to make people believe they're powerless, and that fighting back won't change anything, and that they do this to break people's spirit, especially in Iran with 120,000 of our best people, brave people who have given their lives. But we know that's not the truth. And if you ever feel helpless, I do it myself. I remember Iran's 120 years of resistance, that many generations have fought for freedom and they have never gave up. I think about the PMOI, the main and the biggest Iranian opposition, which has stood strong for 60 years, despite all the lies, the attacks, the smear campaigns from the regime. It has grown stronger every day. Even in Iran's prisons, political prisoners have been on hunger strike every Tuesday for 85 weeks across 54 prisons. So this has actually shaken the regime, and this proves that Iranians can stand up to oppression. I look at the resistance units who are working, risking their lives across Iran today, even in the toughest conditions that we all know. So, this is how they're opening new paths and showing what's possible. And that's how I think that everyone, especially Iranians, they can have their strength from them, that they are not alone, that they should never feel alone, that there is a movement fighting to free Iran, and we will win. We will definitely win.
I like what you said, but I have to come with another but. I work together with some young activists, and I support them in times where they are bullied, where they feel a bit hopeless, or where they feel offended. They would never give up, but they sometimes have to deal with online hate or political pressure personally. Is this also the fact that you have to face this against you yourself as a person?
Yes, actually, we also face these online hates and political pressures. But we believe that the more online hate we face from the regime's cyber agents, the more we understand that our activities are very effective. because, these insults and attacks are only the work of regimes, mercenaries and collaborators, and those who don't want to see a free Iran. So instead of spending our time responding to them, we focus on exposing the regime's crimes and promoting our own goals. So this is how we are actually dealing with this.
That's very tough and strong, I would say. What leadership lessons can you give leaders? Can business leaders learn from somebody like you, human rights advocacy?
I think the most important lesson to the leaders and those who are doing the business is that sacrificing human rights for business or economic interest is really a source of shame and disgrace. And that history remembers those who are complicit with criminal regimes and turning it into a scandal for business leaders. So no matter how significant the business gain, it is never worth selling one's honor and conscience, turning a blind eye to the killing and massacre of innocent people, or entering into deals with such a criminal regime. This is what I will tell them.
I can imagine that your work, your passion takes a lot of time. How do you combine it with your daily work?
Actually, of course, for us who are fighting for a very great cause, we always put our responsibility first. That means that I wish, of course, Iran was free and our people lived happily. And so we don't need to do all this. But the reality is that our people at this very moment we are speaking right now are suffering under a cruel dictator that must be overthrown. So therefore, for the sake of our people and to achieve this great goal, we have to put our responsibilities before anything else. So we choose this path as no one forces us. And that's why our work gives us the positive energy and the satisfaction and, the purpose.
Is it possible to have kids in such a situation when you're putting your life full for this goal to support human rights in Iran?
Of course, if we were facing, if we were living in a democracy and we were, like other parties, like you have in Germany, you could have your family and there was nothing wrong with that. Because working as political parties, but when we are facing a fascism dictatorships who have no mercy even to children, to grandmothers, executing, killing every day, and you want to overthrow such regime, you have to put your 100% energy on that goal. And I think we have. If like for 40 years ago, it was only our resistance who sacrificed everything, their families. Why should the members of the PMI give their children and everything? Was because they have to focus on one goal, which is a very huge goal. And I think that today we see it in Ukraine as well, in the war of Ukraine, that when the parents want to go and fight in the front line, they are sending their children and they have to give their personal lives. They have to put it aside, that they have to focus on the war. I think it's the same. Actually, we have the experience in our resistance, of course, that when you're dealing with such brutal dictatorship, you have to be 100% focused on it. And this is how we have gained so many victories so far. And if we want to gain the main victory, which is freedom for Iranian, we have to sacrifice everything that, your careers, your own personal life, your children. And in my view, this is the biggest sacrifice a human being can do. And I think this is a role model, not only for Iran, but for the whole world, that, such high sacrifice. One example is my father. You have to love so many children to be able to give your own child away and to, sacrifice yourself for a greater cause.
Absolutely. These are really big and very wise words. And I mean, we are coming to an end, but I would like to, for our listeners, also show the situation a bit more differentiated. I mean, we learned from you a tiny little bit of what is typical for Iran, and I mean, having now you have in front of you somebody who loves the culture of Iran, who loves this wisdom, this culture which is full of wisdom, but also how do you say, love to nature in an aesthetical way. I've never seen this with another country that much, where the culture of cooking, for example, also by the men, is embodied by the idea of the prayer for supporting the nature, being one with the nature, but in a very aesthetic way. Do you want to say a little bit to this? What is so typical about the Iran and what makes you also proud of your country, the very special culture?
Well, I think our country is one of the most beautiful countries in the world, not because of its nature, which I totally agree with you. It has a very beautiful nature. It has a beautiful people, really nice people, hospitality and everything is really in our culture, 5,000 years of civilization, of course. But sorry, my phone. But in my view, the most significant in our history is really the resistance, 120 years. I repeat it because I think this is something that we should really be proud of as Iranians. We have a resistance, and right now, in my view, we have a leadership led by a woman, Mariam Rajavi. She represents for me the symbol of a liberated woman, one who accepts no oppression or discrimination against any Iranian woman or indeed any woman in the world. So she believes that all women can acquire the necessary skills to participate fully in all, uh, leadership roles. And she has trained a long line of women within the movement for this purpose. She, in my view, her 12-point plan for women equality and 10-point plan for future of Iran. These principles and rights are not just about freeing women, they are about liberating both Iranian men and women together for their historical change as part of a bigger movement for change. This is something that I think is very special, and I hope that uh, very soon when Iran is free, we can see that in our country and we can spread these values throughout the whole Middle East and the whole world.
I like this very much that you said this women and men together, because I completely agree with you there. It is important that we stay in our diversity together and accept, and not only accept, but also take it as an advantage that we are different and adore the differentiations, and the specialities of the other. So I hope that in future your voice will be heard much, much more from different countries, organizations all over the world. And I'm happy to support. Thank you so much, Safora, to being part of the show today.
Thank you so much, Annabelle. It was an honor for me, and thank you for all your listeners.
Yeah, so we have again now, we come to an end now, and I hope you took something for you that wraps up our episode now about this radio show dedicated to celebrating the strength, resilience, and limitless potential of women and men around the globe. Join us again next week, and we continue on this empowering journey, sharing real stories of triumph, upliftment, and empowerment. Your presence and engagement means a word to us, and we appreciate you taking the time to tune in. Thank you for being part of this community. And until next time, whatever happens, keep shining and empowering others. Together, I'm sure we can make everything, we can reach everything, and together we rise.
Welcome to Inspiring Minds, where captivating narratives fuel our aspirations for a better world. Join Anabel as she introduces extraordinary individuals whose stories motivate us to act for a world worth living in.